Hey guys, thanks a lot for clicking on this video. This time it's out with the manifolds and stock Y pipe, in with the long tube headers and the Dynamax bullets, and then we go back to the drag strip and see if it actually goes any faster or not. So you don't have to suffer through the entire grueling header installation if you don't want to. I put timestamps in the description, so if there's a particular part of the process you want to see, you can skip right to it, or if you want to go right to the end of the drag strip, that's fine too. Just takes one click. But before you do that click, do me a favor, go in the comments and please give a prediction. How much faster do you think the car will go? How much ET? How much mile per hour? The answer could honestly be 0. I hope it's not. But either way, it'll be fun to see how the predictions shake out. So please do make a guess, and we'll all have fun with that. Now on to the headers. I scoured the entire internet to find the absolute cheapest headers for a 93 to 97 LT1 F-body, and these are them. These are Flash Shark headers, and using the discount code FB20, they came to a grand total of $158 with free shipping and no tax. Now that free shipping, the packaging part of it, maybe leaves a bit to be desired. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides of the box have holes in it. And the headers are just loosely in the box. But they did arrive. I didn't have headers, and now I have headers. So, you know, if I had taken this box of headers to USPS or UPS and tried to ship it, just the shipping probably would have cost me $158. So I think that's kind of an impressive deal. So this gasket bag's kind of chewed up. It looks like some of the hardware came out and is just loose in the box. And of course there's holes in the box. So we'll see what we got. Looks like everything made it except for one header bolt, but that's not too bad. So these aren't the best headers in the world, but they're not bad. I think most of these exhaust manifold bolts are going to be more accessible from the bottom than they will be from the top. One down, 11 to go. That was brilliant. Well, I managed to get that socket and breaker handle wedged next to the steering shaft. And I got the steering shaft undone from the rack and pinion, but of course it didn't move that end of it. So now I'm taking the steering shaft off from the steering column. Halfway there. Well, it's unbolted, but looks like there's some kind of EGR tube that goes back behind the engine. Yeah, it's gonna have to go at the top. So maybe it can go at the bottom. Good night. Victory. All right, guys, it's a brand new day. I'm gonna try to pick up where I left off here. I think the first thing I'm gonna do is get those other 3 spark plugs out of the way, and then we'll see if we can get this passenger side header on. Now, if you look down there, you can see there's a bell housing ear that sticks out past the starter, and that gave me a heck of a time trying to get that exhaust manifold down and out on that side. I don't know if that's going to be in the way of the header or not, so we'll kind of have to feel it out and get the header up in place and see if it'll go into place. We may end up trimming that thing off. Now, this number 8 spark plug was actually loose while I was trying to get out the exhaust manifold bolt that was next to it. I touched it and it wiggled, and I realized I could just thread it out with my fingers. So, and you can see it's all sooty on the side, so it's been leaking out combustion pressure. I have all new plugs to go in, but you know, I figure that's like 1 more horsepower we'll pick up by actually having the spark plugs tight. It also looks like it's going to be easy enough to tell which spark plug wire is which, because they all come from the front and the lengths are different. It's not going from the top. All right, guys, I'm going to try out these Proform header bolts that have these two-piece, they're calling it a wedge lock washer. Because the last thing in the world I ever want is for these things to loosen up and me to have to get in there and tighten them again. So if these ones have a little better chance of staying torqued, I'm all for it. All right, I got one bolt started in there, so the header will at least hang in place. And I got my dipstick tube sort of murdered back up into place. I guess if I was doing this again, I would probably take the dipstick tube out of the pan first. But either way, it's there. Unfortunately, the dipstick is actually broken off inside there, which is a bummer. But anyway, now that the header won't fall off, I'm going to raise the car back up and see what it's hitting down below. All right, so if it moves up, it hits this heat shield. If it moves down, it hits the K-member. And if it moves right, it hits the frame box, the unibody frame. So hopefully it's just gonna ride in that perfect happy medium in the middle. Either way, it looks like there's nothing down here that it's gonna hurt if it hits. So what I'm gonna do is just start tightening up that bolt to suck it up against the head and then take a look and see where it ends up. I think I'm gonna have to pull the valve cover off so that I can slip the gasket down. I'm trying to get the header pretty much in place and then pull the bolts back, put the gasket in, maybe leave one end bolt, get one end of the gasket in, put that bolt, so that I'm not destroying the gasket while trying to hold it in place and move the header. But the lip on the valve cover is gonna kind of block me from being able to slip that in, so I think I'm gonna pull the valve cover off. Pretty clean inside. It's good news. No sludge at all. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and AC delete this thing. It probably was never going to work anyway, and it is just absolutely in the way of everything. So I already know this system has been discharged and there's nothing in it at all. If you don't know that for sure, you never want to just go taking these lines apart, because all the Freon will come blasting out and it can hurt you. Alright guys, I've got the very back screw and the very front screw started, and I'm going to try to slip the gasket in now. Now this gasket does not have any slotted holes, so I'm going to modify it. Something like that. It sat right in. Alright guys, all those bolts are as tight as I can get them with a 3060 open end wrench, all except for the very back one. I'm going to try to get that one from the bottom. Alright, that's all tight. Of course it won't focus up there. So, we didn't have any problem with the bell housing ear. Not really any problem with this heat shield. When we got room to the K-member, we are just kissing the frame there. Like, I can wiggle it and it touches and it stops touching, so it's just touching on there. I don't know, hopefully that won't create any false knock issues for the knock sensor, but we'll just have to see. All in all, that header fits perfectly. Well, with that header primary right in line with that number 4 spark plug, there's no getting a socket on that one, so I'll be running that in with an open end wrench. So the next problem is obviously going to be how the wire harness is sandwiched in the primary there, and it's going to get melted. So what I'm going to try to do is try to reposition that forward, see if I can run it around here instead. All right, that's a little better. I think this one is going to the vehicle speed sensor, the wheel speed sensor, which, you know, may or may not still have any function in this car. Now, one of these days, I'm going to pull this engine out and do a cam swap, and at that time, I'll go ahead and block off the EGR ports with aluminum plate. But for right now, I'm going to leave that tube in place and just plug it with a 1/2-inch bolt. Got my JB weld ready to go. Doesn't have to be elegant, just has to work. Honestly, with the EGR tuned out, I don't think that tube was going to be a problem anyway, but now it'll be nice and plugged. The next time I do headers on an LT1, I'll take the dipstick tube out before I try to remove the passenger side exhaust manifold, but in my case, I destroyed the dipstick tube. So I have a new GM Performance Parts 12551154 engine oil dipstick tube, new item, and China's finest work good long time dipstick. And we're going to do a little bit of myth busting because all the listings I find for this dipstick tube say that they work for a 95 through 97 LT1 and not a 94. But I don't know that there's any actual difference, and I don't see one listed for a 94. So we'll see if it actually fits. Made in Canada, it turns out. Beautiful. Well, it took quite a bit of tweaking, but it does in fact finally fit. This harness that comes down here, down the K-member, and it goes to the starter, and it also has a connector for the oxygen sensor, passenger side oxygen sensor, and a ground that goes to the block. That one, I don't really like how close that is, so I'm going to be undoing it from the starter and everything, and then fishing it down and reconnecting it. And then I would run it up the side of the block. I'll probably end up zip tying it to the dipstick tube. All right, that is all loose. All right, I think that's a little safer path for the wire harness to go down there with the dipstick tube. It's not really close to any of the primaries now. I found this AC delete pulley that says it fits a 94 LT1 F-body. It turned out to be kind of a multi-application part because it came with a selection of bushings and you had to figure out which one gets you the proper pulley spacing. Then you have to drill out the threaded holes so that the bolts can pass through correctly. After that, it seems to fit and work just fine. All right, driver's side header is in. With the header install done, I did some basic DIY tuning to make sure I had a good air-fuel ratio before heading to the drag strip. This is a good time to be realistic about my expectations. The only direct comparison I've seen between cast exhaust manifolds and long tube headers on an LT1 is from this Hot Rod Magazine article where they did a handful of mods one at a time on the dyno. Going from manifolds to headers on a mostly stock engine took them from 340 horse to 353 for a gain of 13. I don't have a dyno, but I am fortunate enough to have a local drag strip, and the quickest I could get this car to go last season with the manifolds was 1366 at 99 miles per hour. Not 100 miles per hour, 99. I'm going to take the wise advice of Mike Finnegan in this case and lower my expectations in order to achieve a goal. So if I could just get this car to finally break 100 miles per hour on the drag strip, then I'm calling the header install a victory. I showed up at QRP Raceway on a Friday night, which is when they hold no prep races. This is a great time to get a lot of passes in because it's usually not as busy as some of their more popular events. However, the combination of old hard street tires and a non-prepped starting line went exactly how you'd think it would go. Definitely not getting any personal best ETs on this trip, but I did hit my goal of breaking 100 miles per hour with consistent chap speeds of 102.5. Considering it was hot this evening, hovering around 88 and 89, and my previous best pass was on a cool 70-degree September morning, I'm going to say picking up 3 miles per hour with the headers is a big win. I came back on the following Sunday morning and entered a bracket race so that I could launch on a glued starting line and try for a better ET. Unfortunately, it was even hotter. It was above 90 degrees before the first pass of the morning, and by the afternoon it was 96 with a density altitude pushing 5,200. 1348 and a 1345 in qualifying, and then somehow both red lighted and spun the tires on my first and last round of actual racing.
Left, 1340 dial. Eric Wolf, right, 1274 dial. Red light, left lane. Good win, Eric Wolf, right lane. Eric Wolf leads a point this year. Eric Wolf is the champion in 2024 last year. Eric Wolf going into round 2. Tough guy with the Ford Fairlane.
Oh well, I had a lot of fun, and despite the horrendous density altitude, 1345 is 2 full tenths faster than my best pass on a cool day with the cast iron manifolds. So the headers were worth a very legit 2 tenths and 3 miles per hour in the quarter mile, and that is a victory. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And if you have an extra 10 seconds, please leave a comment down below. Thanks very much. Take care.